thank our witness for being here today. The Civil Rights Division is responsible for the enforcement of civil rights statutes enacted by Congress and related constitutional guarantees. This is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I, too, in a previous life served in the Department of Justice, having served as Special Assistant United States Attorney in the Eastern District of Texas. My job there, as the witness and my colleagues know, was to equally enforce the law. My grandfather was the Chief of Police in Sweetwater, Texas. His job was to equally enforce the law. My grandmother was the first woman elected county clerk in Nolan County, Texas, after my grandfather passed away from cancer when my dad was 7 years old. Her job was to equally enforce the law. Justice is blind, and we must follow the facts wherever they may take us. Like all components of the Justice Department, the Civil Rights Division is expected to do the same, equally enforce the law. Unfortunately, under the Biden administration, this has not always been the case. The Civil Rights Division has fixed its sight, for example, on those charged with protecting us, police departments, often harassing these departments to the point that they cannot do their jobs. There have been a series of investigations: Minneapolis, Louisville, Phoenix, Mount Vernon, New York, Louisiana State Police, New York City Police Department Special Victims Division, Maryland Department of State Police, Worcester, Massachusetts Police Department, Memphis Police, Trenton, New Jersey, Lexington, Mississippi. 11 times over the last 2 years, we've seen a significant disparity. There are just a few examples of how the DOJ Civil Rights Division has targeted those who protect our communities. It's not to say there are not circumstances meriting review, but in the midst of rising crime, plummeting police recruiting, open borders, mountains of fentanyl, DOJ is prioritizing investigations with small to mid-sized police departments. Under President Biden, DOJ has opened 11 pattern or practice investigations into police departments throughout the country, compared to just one under the previous administration. This combined with fairly radical views that we'll talk about with the witness earlier about defunding the police in the past, which raises concerns about the intent of such investigations, especially at a time when police are demoralized, following the defund the police movement and crime wave that has followed. The division's activities have also too often amounted to using the law to advantage or disadvantage certain states and individuals. For example, the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or FACE Act, prohibits threats of force, obstruction, and property damage intended to interfere with reproductive health care services. This law protects abortion clinics, pregnancy resource centers, and houses of worship alike. However, the division's prosecutions under the FACE Act show a significant bias toward prosecuting FACE Act violations involving abortion clinics, particularly the situation involving Mark Houck, who was charged under the FACE Act for protecting his young son from a belligerent abortion activist. On May 2nd, 2022, a draft copy of the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization was leaked to the press. This leak gave rise to widespread demonstrations and attacks on pro-life facilities. In fact, following the leak, more than 100 pro-life facilities were vandalized or damaged, including by arson. 218 Catholic churches have been attacked since the Dobbs decision was leaked, according to Catholic Vote. According to the Family Research Council, there were 57 pro-abortion acts of hostility against churches from January 22 to September 22. And in the first quarter of fiscal 23, there were 69 incidents of hostility toward churches. In the face of this increase, you would expect Civil Rights Division to step up and protect the civil rights of these Americans, but there was not. In 2022, the department brought 26 prosecutions under the FACE Act. All of them involved alleged incidents at abortion clinics. In 23, the department has identified for the committee one prosecution of 4 individuals in Florida who spray-painted threats on pregnancy resource centers in the state. This marked the first time in American history that the FACE Act was used against pro-abortion protesters. This questionable use of resources is further illustrated by other activities of the division. In 2021, the department began a lawsuit against the state of Georgia alleging a new election law was enacted with the purpose of denying or abridging the right of Black Georgians to vote on account of their race or color. The problem is that's just not true, and the court's decisions in that case to date have borne that out. Recently, the court refused to block several provisions of the law while the litigation continues. Notably, the court found that the department has not shown that any of the provisions have a disparate impact on Black voters. Quite simply, the facts on the ground do not match the allegations in the department's lawsuit. While the department is devoting resources to this politically motivated lawsuit, it is missing in action when constitutional rights are violated. In September of this year, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham issued a public health order banning the otherwise lawful carrying of firearms in certain jurisdictions in the state. This order was plainly unconstitutional under the 2nd and 14th Amendments in the Supreme Court's precedents. Despite this plain violation of American rights, the Civil Rights Division was nowhere to be found. An advocacy group, not the department, had to bring a lawsuit to overturn the order. The division failed to file an amicus brief or even a statement of interest to protect Americans' Second Amendment rights. More recently, the Civil Rights Department appears to be standing idly by while Jewish Americans have their civil rights violated by radical pro-Palestinian protesters. Since Hamas's cowardly October 7th attack in which it murdered innocent Israelis, raped women, and kidnapped babies, rampant anti-Semitism has reared its ugly head on American college campuses and throughout major American cities. Just this weekend, pro-Palestinian protesters in Philadelphia protested outside of Goldie, a Jewish-owned falafel restaurant with a location less than a mile away from Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed. The division must return to the nonpartisan work of protecting the rights of all Americans. I would note that there is an ongoing list of anti-Semitic threats and violence throughout the West. Anti-Semites spray Montreal Jewish schools in bullets. Attacks on AIPAC president's home in L.A. investigated as hate crime. Burbank police searched for a suspect that spray-painted swastikas on synagogue. Burn in Hell Jewish Center at University of Florida vandalized with anti-Semitic graffiti. Cornell cancels classes after student arrested for anti-Semitic threats of murder and rape. FBI investigating after synagogue desecrated with anti-Israel, anti-Semitic graffiti. That's 8 of literally pages of examples of anti-Semitic acts in the wake of October 7th, and it is notable that there has been basically silence. So it is true the division must return to the nonpartisan work of protecting the rights of all Americans, not just those that it favors. I look forward to hearing this morning how that will happen.